So today's session is about storytelling. So it's a very interesting topic, and not only interesting, this topic is very vast. So let me see how much I can cover in 1 hour. So before I start or share my screen, I would just like to tell you all a briefing about what is storytelling actually is. Storytelling is an important tool as it's been practiced since ages. It is based on the ASBL, which means active story based learning, which takes a child through the process of thinking, asking, discussing, acting using stories. It started during the grandma's times. You must have heard about Dadi ki kahani, Nani ki kahaniyan, and all those things. So, in those days, what used to happen was the stories were so interesting that the children used to go off to sleep. The dadi and nanis used to take the children onto the bed and give them, stories of fairy tales and all those things. And, so it was so interesting that what is going to happen next? What is going to happen next? So the children used to be, so interested in what is going to be the climax of the story. So before I share my screen, before I show you the PPT, I would like to tell you is when we start a story, the three main parts of storytelling are very important. That is conflict, character, and climax. Please remember these three things. What are the three C's? What are the three C's? They are conflict, character, and climax. Now I would share my screen with you. As I told you that storytelling had originated long time before. 200 BC, you can see 1700, 17th century, 1826, late 20th century, before that 1949. So on it moved with different, development of stories. Like if you have visited some caves like in Ajanta, Ellora caves, or the Konark temple, or many old temples in the south also, you must have seen that there are so many pictures over there, pictures drawn, and what those actually pictures meant. The animals, you could see the different type of art form, the dance and all. What did it meant? It all meant about the story. They were actually telling us a theme. So what was it? Somewhere it is Ramayana, somewhere it is. So all, even in villages, you may see some houses which are made of kacha houses. You can see they draw something outside the house. Those stick figures and everything is being drawn outside the house and all. So they also relate to some stories. So what I mean to tell you over here is the storytelling as a pedagogy we use as a major tool nowadays into the classroom is because what happens is when we are just reading out a chapter, what happens when we are reading out a chapter and explaining the chapter, I don't think so children will be so interested, or they are not so interested in what is there. But if it is in a form of story, now before you start a chapter, for example, if you start a language chapter or in English or in Hindi or whatever, just we are talking about at present and in English or a language, a literature chapter, whether it's English or Hindi. So we are just talking generally about it. So you have to explain a chapter. Now, if you read it and a paragraph and then you explain it, will it be so interesting rather than, you summarize the chapter and then tell the children in a way of story which becomes very interesting for them. They will have the curiosity of what is going to happen. Like, in that is one form. One form is that when you enact, you make the different, the theme of the story, right? The chapter. So enactment, you have the characters with you, right? So you give different roles to the different children in your class. So what happens? First of all, the whole class has been interacted. They are participating. And what happens? The characters themselves, they feel what they are going to narrate. So it becomes very easy. It's an easy process for the teaching, learning process, you can say, for the teacher as well as the learner also. So it not only helps in the new generation which has come up with when we have to take up some special child in our school, in our classroom. Suppose if you're having a special child in your classroom, and there are different, I will come to the next slide. When you will come to it, you will know the different ways of storytelling. What happens is, earlier, you remember when you must have been in school, or when I was in school, we always used to play a game called Damsharas. It is, I think, maybe practiced now also. So Damsharas was a game in which we never used our oral. We never used to say something. It was just the hand movement, no lip movement, and everything was, it was enacted in that way. So suppose if you have a child in your class who is having hearing problem or something like that. So in that way also, in acting the story also, helps the child to be as normal as the other children. Now you can see on the screen, like when it originated, how it originated, and by certain centuries, like you can see by the time how it developed. We had different type of storytelling. We have oral storytelling. We have visual storytelling, which is now being practiced. Now, this is the evolution of storytelling. You can see the cave painting, the folklore, the epics, the religious writings, then carving on pillars and rocks, handwritten copies of stories. What do you mean by handwritten copies of stories? The comics and all the things. So many things are there, Ramayana, Mahabharata, and then you have the novels, you have plays, you have journalism, you have novels. You can see slowly, novels, editing, then it comes to films, and later on it comes to digital storytelling. Now, when it comes to films, so what I told you in the beginning only, that we have three three important C's. So those three important C's, what we talked about was conflict, character, and climax. Okay. So characters, when we watch a movie, what is the character? The character now, for example, when suppose I'm talking about a film in which Sushant Singh Rajput had, enacted Dhoni. So at that time, what was the audience feeling? Was it actually Dhoni? No. The character who played Dhoni's character, the person who played Dhoni's character, Mr. Sushant Singh Rajput, I'm very sad to say that he is no more over here in this world. So how beautifully he played, how beautifully he got into his character, means he अपने आप को उसमें ढालना, धोनी की तरह डाल करके, his batting style, his way of walking and everything, he उनसे adapt करके, and the way he acted out in the movie was fabulous. So this is what I want to say is, character plays a very important role when you have in the storytelling or in the story play, whatever you are having in the classroom. So over here, when we are talking as teachers and students in your classroom, when you're dealing with students, what happens is, the character which you are performing, your children will be performing in the classroom, may be well versatile or well, defined to play what they are. Like suppose, for example, you are having for lower classes, suppose you're having fairy tales in your library period, suppose you're having a story on Cinderella. Like you can make your library classes also very interesting for lower children, because they are not able to, read books and all, if you're talking about fairy tales. So what happens? Cinderella. Now somebody, acts out Cinderella, somebody acts out those three stepsisters, one acts out like a prince. So now Cinderella's character has to be like, how Cinderella was, and then how she changed into beautiful girl when she went for the ball dance, and then how the three sisters reacted, and all those things, and the climax. Why we talk about the climax? Climax is what will happen next? Like nobody thought that Cinderella is going to go for the show or the ball dance. Nobody, neither her sister or sisters, neither her stepmothers, nobody knew that Cinderella is going to go. But what was the turning point, or you can say the climax? What? Cinderella went for the ball dance and she had to return back. And then what she did? She lost her glass slippers. She left it over there in the hall itself. And then what happens? The king comes, the prince comes home, and the sisters tried tried wearing that sandal and that beautiful glass sandal, but it did not fit. But it fitted Cinderella. So that was the turning point, means the climax of the story, that Cinderella became a princess. So you have seen the evaluation. Now let's talk about the elements of storytelling, which I have already just briefed you all. It is, you can see on the screen over here, there are 7 elements. There are 7 elements. The first one is plot, character, theme, dialogue, melody, decor, and spectacle. You can see that. So what does the theme do? You can see a diagram over here of chart type of a thing in which theme is kept in the middle. Why it is kept in the middle? Because theme means the main thing, matlab story ka heart. Like we study like 3 hands, 3H of the Bloom's taxonomy ka 3H hota hai. What is it? Head, heart and hand. So, usi tarah se, when we are having a story, the heart of the story is the theme. Okay? So, now we will, just go through what the others actually mean. Plot, character, theme, plot, character, theme, dialogue, melody, spectacle. Okay, what does these mean? We come down to it. Now, you can see over here plot. What is plot? Critical element, you can see arrangement of incidents like action, tragedy, combination of the actual event or action, build a relationship with the user. Then we come to the next thing, that is the character. Now, what is the character? Character is a living, I have talked about the character just in brief, just to make you understand. So you can just see what is written over here. Character is a living element to build a strong story. The character should be well defined. As I told you, the character should be well defined. The actions of the character controls how the plot develops. So what is the first thing? Is the plot, and on plotting, the character comes upon. So the action of the character controls how the plot develops. Like when you join dots, what happens? To join the dots, your line has to be fine from one end to the other end. It has to be minute and particular. So the same thing is when the character has to be controlled, has to be well defined to control the plot. Next is theme. Theme, which I told you, the heart. What is theme? A story's theme leads direct support to the character. अगर हमारे पास में थीम ही नहीं होगा तो कैरेक्टर ही नहीं होगा, कुछ भी नहीं होगा. So suppose for example you all are teachers over here, so whenever you are planning for some program in your school, so you always have a theme for it, right? Because without a theme आप कभी भी किसी चीज को you cannot proceed until and unless you have a proper theme. Theme based होने से क्या होता है? It goes on very easy. It goes on very easy and it is very important. So over here, what I want to tell you is a story's theme lends direct support to the character. Use a theme to develop, use a theme, not only to develop the direct support, but your theme also should be one which gives a message. A message should always be there in your theme. Use a theme to help you stay focused and give your theme a compiling story to motivate you. Now, you should have such a story or such a thing which gives you motivation. I know that every chapter may not be motivated, but you as a teacher in your classroom, you have to make it so interesting and so lively. You have to compile it in such a way that it motivates the child, not only just rote learning, it abolishes rote learning. It is actually, you can see, a practical way of what is being done nowadays, a research way or practical way of learning. The overranking challenge that must be overcome, or the objective of the undertaking, is revealed by the story's theme. Now, next comes dialogue. Dialogue is very important. Now, before you can see, you can read it on the screen what is written. It is a vital in a story as the plot and character. Now, what I want to tell you is dialogue. Now, for example, I want to talk about Mowgli. You all must have watched the, 90% of you all must have watched Mowgli in your childhood days, or now also you can see the modification of Mowgli. Mowgli made the person who enacted the character was for Sher Khan. How was his dialogue? And और जो एक था बगीरा, उसके dialogues, there was a change, there was a change of delivering the speech. What happened was, when Bagheera used to talk, तो Bagheera की आवाज उतनी तेज नहीं होती थी, but जब शेर खान बोलता था तो उसके आवाज में एक दम होता था. So there is always a, a line defined with the character and the character's dialogue also, because the role which you're playing or the character which you're dealing with has to have a proper vital, enough, means an importance. Dialogue plays an important role when we are having storytelling in your classroom. The elements can influence a story's dialogue are listed below. You can see the elements which are listed below: the audience, the message, the platform used for distribution of the story. The brand story is under. Now, coming to melody. Now, nothing can be completed without melody. सुर ही सब कुछ है, बिना सुर का कुछ भी नहीं है. Now, अगर आप कोई फिल्म भी देख रहे हो, या when you are watching nowadays, पहले के fairy tales and nowadays the fairy tales what you watch on the, TV, what we used to have the fairy tales with, beautiful books. We had beautiful books where we used to have the fairy tales with different pictures and all, in a different way the stories were done. Nowadays it is all visualized and beautifully done. So melody, a little bit of song, little bit of, when you're enacting it, a little bit of melody, a voice modulation, and the way it goes in a melodious way, it also gives a good impact to the student. Not only like, you're going on doing and doing and doing in the same manner. No, it should be a change. There should be a change. So melody also is one of the most important element. Now coming up to decor, visual appeal of the theme, the use of graphics immerse the viewer in the narrative. The visual element is crucial in creating the settings for our plot and character. Now, visual, I told you, what do you mean by visual? Visual मतलब जो things which we are visually, हम लोग जो देख रहे हैं. The things what we are seeing is visual. Like I was talking to you about Damsharas, the visual. We are not speaking anything. We are not talking anything. We are not, having a voice at the back, but we are enacting. It is visual. So visual appeal of the theme is that use of nowadays we are using graphics. You can see with with this generation, children are more interested in graphics. And you can see, like for example, if you say your child is more suppose if your child is in 10th standard or in 8th standard also, you can say nowadays is more equipped with the mobile than you are, or more faster than in technology than what we are today, because it is the gap of generation. So according to it, nowadays you can see graphics, pehle ke stories and abhi ke stories mein there is a difference. You can see differently. We had seen that how it came into storytelling in the initially, how it came into in the 200 BC, how it was, and gradually how the evaluation took place, and then how slowly things have been developed into a technical way, in a digitalized way. Now we come to spectacle. We come to spectacle. You can see it is written over there, the significant unexpected event that perplexed the audience with its presentation. It should not affect the entire storyline as a whole. Now, the spectacle should not, affect the entire storyline. Okay, then you should keep all these in mind when you are preparing a story, or you are enacting it, or you are delivering it in your class. So these are the 7 elements which you should keep in mind and work upon it. Okay, this is a comparable to the surprise or unexpected enduring moment you leave your audience with. Now, your audience is suspecting something कि इसके आगे क्या होगा, इसके आगे क्या होगा. So ये पूरी story line को नहीं बताता है. It doesn't tell you the whole story, but what it does, it keeps you in such a suspense that what is going to happen next. Like when I was telling you that दादी की कहानियां, नानी की कहानियां क्या होती थी, बच्चे जाते थे सुनने के लिए, तो हमेशा सुनते सुनते तो वो सो नहीं, पूरा ही कहानी में उनको एक जिज्ञासा होती थी. They had that anxiousness of asking what's going to happen next, grandma, what's going to happen after that. Now for example, if you take Frog Prince, what happens? The frog itself changed into a prince. Did it immediately change into a prince? No, the incident happened. So no, that has to be, you have to build up that in your classroom, in your in wherever you are doing it with your children, with your students, that effect has to be there. That motivational thing inside a teacher has to be there. Until and unless you build up all these things, you keep all these 7 elements with you, you practice with these 7 elements, obviously you are going to become a very, very good teacher for your students, because they have that, because children have the curiosity, to know what is going to happen next. And the best way of it is you are getting the whole class engaged with you. You can only become a good teacher if you have the whole class engaged with you. No child you see walking around in the class or doing something, putting their head down or talking to each other. All are focused on the teacher. If the teacher is narrating the story, all are focused and they all have that anxiousness, what's going to happen next, what is going to happen, what is ma'am going to tell us, what was the story all about, this, that. So a lot of questions go on the child's mind. So you are getting the full attention of the class. So that gives you 100%, a teacher, 100% remarks to a teacher that you're getting the full attention of the classroom. Next is, now, what is story writing? It's the same thing what we spoke about, is the theme, character, setting, plot, conflict, point of view, and style. See, there is a bit of difference over here. we have the setting over here. First, what we had it over here is when we was narrating the story, we had the plot first. And here what we have the theme first. Obviously, theme is going to be the first thing. Then you have the character, you have the setting, you have the plot, you have the conflict, your point of view, and your style. Now, suppose, see, I am very interested in reading. So, there are a lot of books which many of you must be interested in reading. You must be having your favorite writers whom you like to read their books. Okay. Why? Because their way of, putting their point of view in front of the reader also gives a very good, you can say, a curiosity of, to know what is going to happen. And you have that enthu, you have that thing. When you're reading a book, what happens? You try to, nowadays, hardly you can see children reading books because it is all आजकल के दिन में digitalization हो गया है. पहले के जमाने में क्या होता था? हमेशा बुक्स पढ़े जाते थे. More and more you read books, more and more you know your knowledge. At least you should read a book every day before you go to bed. I request all of you, whichever Hindi, English, आपकी अपनी मातृभाषा की किताबें जो भी है, आप पढ़िए. वो सिर्फ आपके नॉलेज को नहीं, वो आपके माइंड को भी रिलैक्स करता है. क्योंकि वो कोई भी चीज को एक स्टोरी फॉर्म में इस तरह से लिखा हुआ रहता है कि आप इतने इंटरेस्टेड हो जाते हो. यू बिकम सो इंटरेस्टेड दैट व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन नेक्स्ट, व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन नेक्स्ट. सो that, and the book always gives a message. So not only that, एक message तो होना ही चाहिए, positive message. Along with it, you can see over here your point of view. The writer's point of view is also very important. What? Now, if you're reading a book about somebody's autobiography, so उसका भी point of view क्या है, वो बहुत clear होना चाहिए. And the way, style, बहुत ज़्यादा dialogues, वो it's not very interesting. When you are, that's my personal perspective, but everybody has their different perspectives when they are reading different writers books and all. So a lot of dialogues and like it depends, but the style should be in such a way that the reader becomes more enthusiastic and more interested in what is going to happen next and keeps on reading for the next edition to come out. Now we talk about the theme for story writing. Now there is a bit of difference you can see in storytelling and story writing over here, the theme. Now, before you can determine what drives your character or your plot, it helps to understand what inspired you to write this story in the first page. Okay, so a brief summary about what inspired you to write a story. Now, suppose there must be an incident which may be related to your personal experience, or you must have noticed somewhere, or it must have been inspired by somebody or some legend or somebody you are inspired or something. So there should be, a brief, you can say, a summarized way of your theme, which determines that why you were inspired to write this in the first page. So when you are delivering this to your children, children means over here are the learners. Learners are the students. So when they are writing or whatever it is, so you have to make them very clear that what inspired them. It may be you also. It may be for them, you may be. The teacher may be an important character for them. The teacher may be the main importance or main inspiring person for them. So it can be that also. Next is, do you have a main point or message you want to convey? Do you wish to arouse a particular emotion? Now, emotions also is very important. Now, what I said is we have 3H in Bloom's taxonomy. That is head, heart, and hand. So when you think from your head, you are connected with your heart also. So heart keeps the emotions. So emotions are also there. Now, if you're watching a movie, for example, if there is no emotion, no melody, no dialogues, a plain movie, will you like it? You will not. Like I was discussing about MS Dhoni also, but MS Dhoni movie also had emotions. His first girlfriend dies in an accident, so that was an emotion, right? So everywhere we see emotion also is an important part of the theme. Your work will be elevated above the mere sums of its part and help readers to remember it if you choose a strong creative topic. Your topic is very important, what topic you are choosing, and it should be creative and a strong topic. Next, we come to character. Your characters are the life and souls of your story. As I told you, now one more example I've giving you. All remember when we never had these what you call dish TVs, okay? No different channels. We only had Doordarshan. So every Sunday, the whole family used to gather together and sit in front of the TV sharp 9 o'clock. Why? To watch Ramayan. I think most of you at that, those who have seen those, our new generation, they are not aware of it, watching a television together. And Doordarshan also in this generation, because there are n number of channels which has come up now, and then we started having these web series and all. So I was talking about the Ramayana. Now, the character in which Arun Govil played was Ram. So now also many oldies or many old people, they don't know his actual name. They used to call him, or maybe I don't know till now, Ram, Deepika, they used to call Sita and Ravan. Now they got into that character so well that they started worshipping him as Ram. In many calendars in those days, with Arun Govil and Deepika, राम सीता का जोड़ी बन करके कैलेंडर्स में आते थे, तो उनको राम सीता के हिसाब से माना जाता था. And the person who played the character of Ravana, I should say, hats off to him. He got so indulged into it that people got so furious, you know. इतना गुस्सा आता था कि सच में लग रहा है कि हमारे सामने में वो ऐसा कर रहा है. So this is what I want to tell you is that the character is the main soul of your story. If your character is not strong enough to deliver the dialogues, or to, you know, enact the role what he has, or he or she has got of the story, so your story will never be interesting. Your story will become more readable if the characters are well developed. This is what I gave you an example of it. Readers can relate the characters, situations, or see themselves in them. They will be more engaged in your story as well. So what happens if your characters are very strong? Obviously, they will get more interested into the story. So this was all about the character. Now, I was talking to you. Now, the setting is the overall world in which your story will be situated. Now, setting means where the setting is going to be, कैसे होना है, कैसा setup होना है, क्या होना है, उस तरह से मतलब it plays a very important overall world, you can say. मतलब सारी story की overall covering होती है. Author will adapt well-known plots for a different setting. Now, Abhi, if you're having a story, you have to have when did it happen, what's the social climate, where does it take place. Now, when you're telling a story, तो ये कब हुआ था, क्यों हुआ था, कैसे हुआ था, किस जगह पे हुआ था, these things also you have to keep it in mind. You have to keep it in mind. I will show you a short video after this. So you can see over here how the Pitag's pyramid works. You can see over here how it works over here. It's a diagram. You can see it's inciting incident, explosion, rising action, climax, falling actions, resolutions. Okay, you can see. So I will just show you a small video right now. I just want to ask, am I audible? Am I audible? Okay, okay, okay. We continue with the video.
Characters, setting, and
Is
events.
it audible? Is
When
the
we read
video
a story,
audible?
there are four important questions that we
No
need to
sound?
ask ourselves: who, where, when, and what. I ask myself, who are the people, animals, or any make-believe creatures that are in the story? We call these the characters. I ask myself, where and when is the story taking place? I call this the setting of the story. What are the big moments in the story or the action parts in the story? We call those moments the events. Let's listen together to this very short story and identify or find the characters, setting, and events. It was Sunday afternoon when Jenny and Daisy decided to go outside in their backyard to play. They decided to play hide and seek because it's their favorite game to play together. To know who the characters are in this short story, I ask myself, who is this story about? Of course, it's about Jenny and Daisy, so the characters are Jenny and Daisy. To know the setting of this short story, I ask myself, where and when did it take place? I know that it took place in the backyard, and I know that it happened on a Sunday afternoon. So the setting is in the backyard on a Sunday afternoon. To know the events of the story, I ask myself, what was the action happening in the story? And I know that they were playing hide and seek, so that is the event of the story. Remember that characters, setting, and events are only just 3 parts that make up a good story. Stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching.
So you watched the video. So I think it is very clear to you that whatever I have explained to you, you have understood in a form of the video. So now let's come to the conflict. What is conflict? Conflict refers to the tension, struggle, or conflict between two or more characters, between the characters, and forces from within or without. Conflict heightens tension by giving your protagonist a sense of purpose. It draws readers into the narrative and enthuses them to keep reading. This is about the conflict when you're writing a story, the element conflict. Now, point of view. We were talking about the point of view should be very clear. The point of view should be very clear, right? So how to make your point of view very clear? It's over here. I'll just scroll it down for you. It's just moving ahead. Just one sec over here. Okay. The point of view refers to the viewpoint from which the story in your book is told. Now, when you're giving your point of view means आपकी opinion जो दे रहे हो आप, so कौन से book से दे रहे हो and मतलब कौन सी book ने ये कहा है. You have few choices and each of them will have a different impact on the tone of your story as a whole, because every story has a different type of a theme and a different type. Every story is different. None of the stories are the same, whether it goes to epics or anything, whatever it is, but everything has a different theme and a different perspective. Now, intimacy of a close viewpoint such as a first person or third person limited will be contrasted with the impersonality of a far viewpoint, such as a second person or third person ominist. Next is the closeness of a first person or third person limited viewpoint will be contrasted with the impersonality of the second person or third person ominist's viewpoint. This was about making your point of view very clear. Now the style, the author's style or the writer's style. Now we come to the author's style. The author's choice of storytelling technique is referred to as a style. Why it is referred to as a style? Now let us see what is it. Your writing style is the combination of all the components that make your story so unique, from your tempo and tone to the specific word or phrases you use. Now, for example, when the children write composition, do you see that every child has written a same type of composition? No, there is a difference. The language difference is there. Some use more of phrases. Some children use a lot of dialogues and all. So it depends upon their memory, their thinking power, how they think, their writing. Many people must be very good in writing. They say that writing skill, if you tell them to write something, a composition or a story, they will write it down very beautifully. But when you tell them to explain it, they will not be able to do it. Many children have a habit of explaining it very beautifully, talking, or you give them a mic on the stage, they will speak beautifully for hours, for minutes and for an hour, they can speak beautifully, lovely. But when it comes to writing down, they will not be able to do it jotted down with pen and paper. So this is the different style of author. There truly aren't any specific standards to define what excellent language looks like. We cannot define anything excellent language. Now, when we see, for example, anybody talking on the stage, you will be so attractive and so enthused, and you will have that, you can say that curiosity of listening to that person for a long time, that the style of speaking and the style of talking and interacting with the crowd is totally different. And another person who may be very good in writing, but when it's coming up to narration, it's all zero. So it depends. So we cannot define the excellent language, how it looks like. So everybody has a different style, but your style should be very effective. Now, this is what I was talking to you all about. Implementing 3 C's. What was the 3 C's? I had already told you in the beginning of the session only, that storytelling always have 3 C's. That is conflict, character, and climax. Unanticipated circumstances come into conflict. Character, a strong connection with readers, readable with learners. Climax is the turning point, building curiosity. So what I told you is climax. If in a movie or in a story, if you don't have the climax, ki next kya hone wala hai, to maza hi nahi aayega. Now, for incorporating it into a science chapter in your classroom. For example, you take up a water cycle. Now, what happens in water cycle? We see that there are a lot of seas and oceans and rivers and all. So what happens during the heat? Heat mein kya hota hai? When the sun is very hot and the heat is there, so the water starts evaporating. Okay, water starts evaporating. It goes and forms into cloud. And now we come that the children also will be, first you're plotting it, first you're having the theme, your theme is water cycle, you're plotting the story is like you are where it happened, how it happened, and what happens next. What is the final scenario? So sabse pehle kya hota hai, we say that okay, we have oceans and seas and rivers and lakes over here in our world, in the earth. We have this. What happens? The sun is very hot. So during the heat, what happens? The water evaporates. The water evaporates. This is the heart of the story. Now the water evaporates and then it goes into the cloud. It forms the cloud. Now, how do we get rain? We have to ask the children, how do we get rain? Now, first question is that how do we get rain? So the climax is when the water is evaporating, it is going as clouds, then how can we have rain? So the climax comes over here is when the clouds burst, it falls into the droplets of water as rain. So this is what I want to tell you is you have to build up a climax, which is very, 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 very important. Very, very, very important. Now, this is how to use storytelling in your classroom. When you're introducing storytelling in your classroom, introducing a new topic. First is you're introducing a new topic. Like for example, I told you water cycle. So you're introducing water cycle as a new topic in your classroom to engage learners. Now, how do you engage learners? Who are the learners over here? Your students are your learners over here. So you're engaging them. Some can, tell them, to make props and all. And they make props of what rivers and mountains and everything. They become props and they are all, the whole class is engaged. Some become clouds, okay, some become rain. So you have to engage the learners to illustrate the concept, okay, to enhance the subject knowledge. So by enacting or this role play, what is happening by storytelling? You are engaging the whole classroom. Now you can see that how you can introduce in your class, how you can do this in your classroom. Next, we come to we will watch another video over here. You can just have.
This is I Am.
Am I, is the video audible? Can you please write down in the chat box if it is audible or not?
I Am is a good storyteller. No, scratch that. I Am is a great storyteller. We're always telling stories. We always have. From cave paintings to that jaunty new hat we're sporting, everything tells a story. I Am understands the importance of storytelling. Telling a good story gives you power over your audience. Stories engage people to help communicate ideas. You can see how this would be handy in the workplace. Telling a good story creates a bond between the storyteller and the listener. And when that connection is made, the brain of the listener releases oxytocin. The love hormone tells us that we can trust the storyteller and a relationship can form. And you wouldn't do business with someone you can't trust, right? The founder of a successful business will always have a good story to tell. Building a business through blood, sweat, tears, and sacrifice gives their story authenticity. And because they believe in it, you will too. You're telling your own story right now. It's not just those carefully chosen words. Subconsciously, you're giving off signals. Your body posture, the clothes that you're wearing. Stories don't have to be complex or detailed to be interesting. The simpler a story is, the more likely it is to stick. You can maximize your storytelling power by remembering this simple little acronym. S. Solve a problem. Use your story to answer a question that your audience has been thinking. T. Triumph. Whatever happens in your story, an eventual triumph will capture the hearts of your audience. O. Outcome. Consider what you want the end game of your story is. Alt line. Consider what you want the end game of your story to be. What are you trying to achieve by telling it? R. Research. With the correct research, you can tailor a narrative to be specific to your audience. Y. U. Using your own stories wherever possible makes a story more believable. Believing in your story goes a long way to convincing your audience of your sincerity. Make your stories engaging and build a relationship with your audience. If you do that, you'll soon be working on a sequel. The end.
So you have watched that what is the importance of storytelling, everything. So I think it is clear to you that why it is important, why, how you can effective tool, how it can become an effective tool. Now again, just a recapitulation for you is why is storytelling an effective tool? Storytelling is an effective tool. It facilitates learners by evoking positive emotions, helps convey difficult message, supports intellectual risks in the classroom, felicitates deeper learners. So this is just a recapitulation for you that how it is important as a tool as storytelling. It is important. You can always incorporate storytelling in any of your subjects you are there with. You can now, the process of storytelling is, you can, we don't have so much of time. I just want to, just give you a briefing about components of an effective story. You can see the components or the different components of an effective story is direct emotions and meaning, inducing empathy in the learners. Now, see, BSc always talks about empathy, sympathy, emotions, and it is very, very important because we are dealing with children nowadays and their way of thinking is very different. Motivate learners to take action. Your story should always have a positive message. Always remember that whatever story you are writing or you are telling should always have a positive method, positive outcome, you can say, a positive um, message or a moral message. You have that. So these are the components, and I would like to stop here and face-টা দেখা। So I hope all of you must have had a good session, and it's a vast topic, so it is not very easy to cover up in 1 hour. But I think whatever information has been given or passed on to you, you must have at least got the knowledge of incorporating storytelling as pedagogy in your subject, in your classroom. And I hope so that you will be practicing this as a major effective tool for your students as well for yourself. So I wish you all a very happy Janmashtami, which is going to be on 26th of this month. I thank our PSSSC and all the participants over here to attend this session. Thank you so much.